The Christian Zionist Manifesto, final solution to the black man's dilemma. Preamble, a definition of Christian Zionism, a conceptual clarification. There are many definitions of the term Christian Zionism. Many Christian evangelicals in Europe and the United States describe the term to mean an unwavering support for the creation and sustenance of the state of Israel. To this, they mobilize support for the success of Israel at home and abroad using private, governmental, and international agencies, to the chagrin of many in the Arab world. Many Christian intellectual critics of this stance argue that since majority of Israelis are non-Christians, Pharisees, Kabbalists, Talmudists, and atheists, the support of Christians for them is unjustified. To this, they argue that to this end, they argue that Christians have double standards, that they are not preaching the gospel to the Israelis, that Christians, the European and the United States governments are supporting Israel against the Arabs, Russians, Iranians, Chinese, and North Koreans in a way which may lead to a third world war. Our response to these allegations is that we can advise and criticize the Israelis whenever their policies are wrong. However, as Christians, we recognize that the Bible had foretold the re-establishment of the state of Israel. We know that they have legitimate claims to their land. We know also through biblical and secular history that they are the most invaded and oppressed people in the world. We know that passages of the scriptures like Psalm 89 and Jeremiah 31 states that even if they backslide, God will only punish them for their sins. But because of his covenant with David, he will not take his mercies away from them, and that God's covenant with Israel will endure like that of the sun, moon, and stars. We know that Romans 11:1 says that God has not abandon Israel, and that we Christians, are like wild olive branches grafted into the natural olive tree of Israel. So, it is biblical for Christians to support the Israelis and the state of Israel and to be Christian Zionists within scriptural limits. The judgment of unbelieving Jews is in the hands of God. It is not in anybody's hands, including those that are contesting their land with them. To we Christians, as it relates to us, Christians had at various times suffered persecution in the hands of religious and secular enemies. In contemporary times, new forms of persecution are arising due to the rise of ideas, beliefs, ideologies, and philosophies such as neo-paganism, atheism, globalism, LGBTism, and multiculturalism in Europe and America and other parts of the world. Terrorism is assailing with renewed force and fury. The Bible in Revelation 9, 12, 13, 17, and 18, and many passages have foretold the persecution of Christians by Antichrist before the second coming of Christ. To this end, we believe that while it is good to be heavenly focused, Christians should rise up to the challenges of survival in this world that we live. The lives of too many Christians have been wasted in many countries, and their political leaders are not ready to do anything tangible or substantive about it. Rather, they provide political shelter and succor for the terrorists. Christian communities must take necessary steps and initiatives to ensure the survival of their people. God commanded that we should be productive and replenish the earth. Jesus Christ preached peace, but Christ also commanded that in the period of tribulation, those who have two clothes should sell one and buy a sword. Christians should renew their mindset to overcome the contemporary challenges facing them. As I said earlier on, Christians should Christians should renew their mindset to overcome the contemporary challenges facing them. Furthermore, there is the age-old challenge of poverty, backwardness, and underdevelopment in Africa. This problem seems to have defied solutions. Its persistence has led many European philosophers and pseudoscientists to be postulating that Africans have a lower intelligence quotient in comparison with other races. To this end, African Christian Zionism seeks to 1. Unravel the deep-seated root causes of the backwardness of Africans, the African race, and to provide solutions to them from a biblical perspective. There are various forms of theories of development and underdevelopment among social scientists and philosophers: classical, neoclassical, liberal, Marxist, radical, and anthropological theories. However, there's an overlooked Christian view. There is an overlooked Christian view, as I said earlier. To establish that Christian view of development and underdevelopment and the spiritual and social backwardness of Africa, to establish that Christian view is the purpose of this book. Two, overcome the legacy of European imperialism. Starting from the era of the transatlantic slave trade, the European race inflicted hundreds of years of slavery on Africans, followed by colonial rule, illegitimate trade, or unequal trade by barter, and now post-colonial rule and debt slavery. Africans have been trampled upon and are still being trampled upon by European powers. Africans have been trampled upon and are still being trampled upon by European powers. 3. Overcome the problem of Asian colonialism. The Chinese, the Japanese, Indians, Arabs are colonizing Africa at a fast rate. This anomaly should be addressed. The Asians are colonizing Africans. The Chinese are giving African countries loans to build infrastructure, loans that they cannot repay, after which they bring in their police force and other apparatus of the Chinese state to possess the African states. This anomaly should be addressed. 4. The purpose of this book is to challenge the problem of deep-seated foundational poverty. It has become apparent that the African race is the most backward and least developed among the various races. This is a deep-seated spiritual and social problem that should be analyzed, understood, and addressed. Five, overcome the problem of ceding or abandoning social, economic, and political leadership to the least qualified segments of the population. It is also important to note that many African Christians have abandoned politics and statesmanship to unbelievers, thugs, and the morally and the morally and intellectual backward segment of the society. For too long, Christians have borne the burden of bad leadership. And governance through their apathy to politics. Naturally, we believe that the world cannot be put right according to our Christian expectation. We know that the politics of this world is governed by greed and avarice. At the same time, we cannot fold our hands and let the politicians drive our societies into chaos. 6. Overcome the problem of terrorism. Christians have been the most persecuted segment of the population. In contemporary times, Theodor Herzl, the Jewish liberationist philosopher, was appalled by the persecution of Jews in Europe and during the Second World War Holocaust, during the World War II Holocaust, and called for the establishment of the Jewish state, which came into fruition in 1948. Similarly, the United States of America was formed by Christian immigrants fleeing persecution in Europe. In the same vein, Christians should advocate for the establishment of autonomous Christian geopolitical entities within existing sovereign secular states with robust participation in politics, which will provide good governance, welfare, and security to the lives of Christians. It is instructive to note that in Revelation 6, the Bible uses symbols white horse, red horse, black horse, and bay horse to represent the advancing work of Christ, white horse, Christian persecution, red horse, economic deprivation of poverty, and religious wars. Economic deprivation is the black horse and poverty, and religious wars generally which is the bay horse, to represent the experiences and trials that Christians will face in various times and periods. However, it is amazing that while the color white and red, which Europeans and Asians had appropriated to themselves, were used to symbolize Christ's conquest and Christian persecution. The color black, which is reserved for Africans or used to describe Africans, is used to describe poverty. It's as if black is synonymous with poverty. Therefore, Africans need serious prayers. The complete analysis and solution to all these aforementioned problems constitute what we described as the Christian Zionist Manifesto. The Christian Zionist Manifesto. We enjoin you to subscribe to this channel and continue to watch all the subsequent videos, and may you be blessed as you do so in Jesus' name.